forgiveness. It is actually just simply the state of non-judgment. That's the simplest way to know that if you're loving. If you're judging your partner, you're not in love with them. You're not loving them. If you're judging yourself, you're not loving yourself. It means to accept yourself as you are. It's the realization that you're unique, whole, and perfect, just like you are. You were created that way. Why? Who knows? That's a useless question. Why were you created? The fact is, you are created. You are unique, you are individual, and you have the power to think. At Agape, we teach a positive, practical spirituality, a way of living. We teach the meditation, mindfulness. We teach the power of using our mind based on the teachings of Ernest Holmes and the science of mind. We teach the philosophies of Hinduism, Buddhism, the basic underpinnings of Christianity. It all comes down to one thing, love. And love always begins and ends with you. So before we get into today's talk, let's take a few moments and become still. So I invite you to take a comfortable seated upright position. Sit up straight. Hands gently resting on your lap. Eyes closed. And now I want you to take a long, deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a few seconds. And now exhale through your mouth twice as long as your inhale. Again, breathe in for a 4 count. Hold. And exhale for a count of 8. Breathe in for 4. Hold. Breathe out for 8. Now I want you to scan your body and notice if there's any discomfort anywhere. And if there is, take a deep breath into that area of your body. Go on, breathe in. Now hold that breath in that part of your body. Visualize it there. And now a real long exhale, letting go all of the stress and tension that might be stored there. Let's take another deep breath into that spot. Go ahead, breathe in. Let that nurturing oxygen fill up that spot. Hold it there. Let that oxygen do its work. And now on the exhale, let it go of all the impurities, all the stress, all the tension. Notice that sense of relaxation now. And having taken the breaths, realize your mind is much calmer. It's not thinking as fast. You can't stop the mind from thinking, but you can slow it down. And that's all we're doing here. So I want you to bring your attention to the center of your chest, your heart center. And what we don't realize is that we close our hearts. We close our hearts based on our preferences. We prefer to have only certain things, and that's all we're open to. And we miss all of life. I want you to consciously open your heart and be willing to open your heart so that you experience everything that happens to you today. Everything. And when that experience is over, you release it. You release your attachment to it. You release your desire to have more of it. You release your desire not to have any of it. You release it and you move to the next experience. Come to understand that living with an open heart, living with an open divine heart, is the willingness to accept everything, to fully experience it, and then to release it and move to the next. So having built this new awareness within yourself, fill yourself with a sense of gratitude. Give thanks. And now gently bring your awareness back into your body, back to your mind, back to this time and place. Start to move ever so gently And when you're ready, open your eyes and welcome back to now. Today, I thought I'd take on a real big one. We all have problems, don't we? So today, let's talk about the source of all our problems. Every day, we face challenges that come up from various aspects of our lives. Our relationships, our jobs, our circumstances. But what if I told you that how you perceive and experience these challenges depends entirely on your mind? What if the real source of the problems isn't out there, but it's within you? What if I told you that your only problem is your mind? It is your mind's preferences, its attachments to what it wants and what it will avoid that causes you all of your problems. Today, we're going to explore how the mind creates a sense of struggle and how we can find freedom and peace by changing our relationship to our thoughts. That's right. All we've got to do is change our relationship to our thoughts. Remember, you're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not your body. You're the awareness beneath all of that. But I don't want to diminish the mind because our mind is an incredible tool. It can help us solve problems, create art, build structures, and develop complex systems. But while the mind is a powerful tool, it can also be our biggest obstacle. Why? Because it is constantly creating stories and judgments about everything around us. Do you hear that? Judgments. Think about what psychologists are talking about. They say that 90% of what we talk about is complaining and gossip. So why is it doing that? That's what the mind does. It creates stories and judgments about what's happening around us. But if we direct our mind could be one of the greatest things that we have in our life because it's through our mind that we create. We didn't create a spaceship by not using our mind. We didn't create going to the moon. We didn't create air conditioning. We didn't create automobiles. All of those things were created by using that mind. But the question is, how are you using your mind? Are you using it as a vessel to create new things, new experiences, new ways of being of service in the world? Are you becoming the master of your mind, or is your mind the master of you? So you live in stories, you live in judgments, you live in gossip, you live in comparison. Yeah, our mind can be an incredible tool, and it can be our worst enemy. Our mind causes us problems in 3 ways. First, the mind doesn't like to let things go. It holds on, it analyzes, and it judges. And that's where our problems start. Not in the event, but how the mind processes an event. And so, think about this. How often do you overanalyze things? I find, one of the common threads is that I find that my wife, Jean, has got a list going on, and she's analyzing that list constantly, day in and day out. And she's judging herself against how much that list she gets done. And I'm constantly reminding her to let go and relax. That all of that analysis, all of that judgment, it's really not accomplishing that much. But it is holding her back. It's causing her stress. It's causing her to not feel good. And I'm not picking on her because I do the same things in different ways to different degrees than what she does. I don't know where you fit on that spectrum, but I think if you were to ask yourself, am I constantly analyzing things? Or do I hold on to them? And do I judge them all the time? Do I really ever relax? Do I really ever relax? That's a great question to ask ourselves. The second way our mind hurts us is that it creates future scenarios. Even though those scenarios are not real, we experience the same emotions as if they were happening right now. The mind tricks us into living with a problem that doesn't actually exist. This, my friends, is anxiety. And we have an anxiety problem in the world today. We're worrying about the future where we have no control over what's happening in the future. The only control we have is now. How are we looking at the events now? You see, what the mind perceives creates an illusion of. It's as real as if it were actually happening. You see, our mind really loves images. So if you create a real image that's got a lot of fear in it, a lot of emotion built in it, and you implant that image of the future in your mind, you're going to start having that experience of that image right now. You don't have to wait for the future. You're going to have that image in your mind right now, and you're going to say, I am troubled. Yes, you are. Why are you troubled? Because of the image that your mind has created. Who controls your mind? Does your mind control it, or do you control it? The third way our mind hurts us is it creates problems through attachment to our identity. The mind is constantly telling us who we are and who we should be. It says, I'm a success, or I'm a failure. It compares us to others, making us feel either superior or inferior. It holds on to labels and judgments which create a constant sense of insecurity or inadequacy. Labels, identity. Someone says, who are you? Well, I'm Lee Wallach. Well, who are you, Lee? Well, I'm a minister. No, I'm not. It's what I do. Well, who are you? Well, I'm a man. No, you were born with male genes and male appendages. Yes, but that's not who you are. I'm 73. No, that's just the number of years you've been alive. We identify with labels. I know that when I left the corporate world back in 2000, God, when was that? 2006, 4? I don't even know. It's about 20 years ago, 2004, I left the corporate world. It took me 3 to 4 years to realize that I was okay because I lost my identity of being an executive in the corporate world. And then even when I had a full-time job, started my own spiritual center, the Agape Spiritual Center. It's not mine, but it's a spiritual center that I founded, that I'm still the senior teacher at. I didn't believe I had a job. I thought I was unemployed for years. That's how conditioned my mind was to the label that I created. I had the label, I had the belief that if I wasn't working for a company, I wasn't working. That's how powerful the mind is. I had to really work through that. So how do we master our mind and find peace? Well, the first step is awareness. We have to become aware that our mind is the one creating these problems in the first place. It's not the external world, but rather our mind's interpretation of it. Once we see that, we can shift. We can start to shift our relationship with our own thoughts. Think about this. How many times have you planned an event outside and the weather gets bad and you just go into a funk? Why? It wasn't the weather, because the weather is the weather. There's nothing you can do about the weather. It happens the way the weather happens. But your perception of the weather, that's where your problems start. Oh, I was going to have a wedding outside. Well, weather happens. Oh, I was going to go camping. It's raining. Oh my God, my beautiful home in Florida. Well, you chose to live where hurricanes happen. Think about that. I chose to live in Dallas-Fort Worth. One of the things I know about Dallas-Fort Worth is what? Every 7 years, you're going to have to replace your roof because of hail and wind. It's part of living here. You accept that. So when it happens, you don't get all upset. You understand it's a risk of where you've chose. If you live in California, guess what? You're going to have wildfires. Why? It's because that's what happens there. What else are you going to have? You're going to have earthquakes. So if you live on the coastline, you've got water things, especially on the East Coast. You've got hurricanes. You can't let it get you down. You accept it and you move forward with it. It's your interpretation, it's your perception that causes you all of your angst. The second way to master your mind and find peace is to realize that you're not your mind. And we simply do this by observing our thoughts without judgment. When a thought arises, whether it's about the past or the future or our identity, we just notice it. We don't need to engage with it or argue with it. Imagine thoughts are simply like clouds in the sky. You can't hold on to them. They just pass by. Think about that. Your thoughts, they come in and they go out. But why do you have persistent thinking about something? Because you're trying to hold on to it. You're attached to it. Let it go. But yet society says you got to hold on to it. Well, look at society. Do you want the experience of society, or do you want to create your own unique experience? If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're going to have the same experience as everyone else. Why would you do that? It's a great question. Why would you continue to have thoughts like everyone else has, knowing that everyone else is miserable? I look at it from the standpoint, if I did what everyone else did, I wouldn't have the healthy body that I have. So I think for myself about health. I don't think what others think about it for me. I think what Lee thinks about it. The third way to mastering our mind and finding peace is by using meditation or focusing on our breath or a mantra. When we do that, we give the mind a rest from its constant activity. Just a few minutes of meditation or spiritual practice every day can help train the mind to be still and calm, reducing the problems it creates. I look forward to my meditation practices twice a day. Why? I get to be still. I get to calm the mind. I get to stop analyzing. I look forward to doing affirmations or mantras, because when I'm doing a mantra, focusing on a one-line statement or on just one word, my mind is not thinking. I'm not analyzing. I'm not judging. I can be more in a peaceful state. I'm realizing that the mind is the source of all my problems. But I am the master of my mind, and I choose now to reclaim it. A great place to begin when faced with a problem is to ask, is this problem really happening now, or is it something my mind is creating? Most of the time, you'll find that the problem is not what it seems. It's a misinterpretation. How many times have you had a teenager that didn't come home on time and you created, oh my God, this whole illusion, and you got yourself all randied up and you said, I got a real problem here. When in retrospect, the child just lost track of time and was with his friends having a great time while you were worried. You created a problem. And then when they came home, you unlowered the boom and it became a bigger problem. Because of why? Your mind. Know that when you become the master of your mind and begin to quiet it, you will find an inner peace that is and has always been there within you. You just didn't realize it. My fondest memories are when I'm sitting and there's not a thing going on in my mind. My wife will look at me and say, Lee, what are you thinking? And I go, nothing. She goes, how can you think nothing? I train myself to think nothing. When I can consciously do that, I'm the master. When I can consciously observe the thoughts, I am the master. When I can consciously observe the emotions that come up, I am the master. I desire for all of us to become masters of our minds, masters of our bodies. And then guess what? We can live in a place where problems really don't exist. The only thing that exists is opportunities for expansion, greater growth, a greater awareness of the oneness that is always there within us. You get to choose. Choose wisely. Be the master. Much love. I want to thank you for taking your time being with us today. Know that at Agape, you can plug in anytime you so choose. Simply go to agapespiritualcenter.com, sign up for click the newsletter, sign up, get the weekly newsletter, My Daily Thought as well. And while you're there, check out our calendar, see what we're offering and how we can support you. And then if this message did anything for you, share it with others. And by the way, I'm asking you, make a donation. That's right, go to the giving tab at the Agape website, make a donation, support this work. This costs money to video, to produce, to distribute, to have the platforms and that. I'm asking you kindly, make a donation so we can give more and more people the opportunity to hear this message of self-empowerment. I believe the more we do that, the more we can have an impact on the world out there. So I invite you to do that. Support me, support Agape, support the message. With that, it's a great day to be alive. And only you can make it so. So do so. Much love, everyone. Until